Hey, good evening, class. This is Mrs. Behrens. I am going to try to get us our first flipped classroom lesson for you guys to do at night at home. Practice some problems, and then we'll see what we need help on when you get back to school tomorrow. So, I wanted to review first how to multiply decimals. So you guys will see we have been working on modeling multiplication of decimals for the past week or so. So I wanted to point out the big things that we learned when we were modeling multiplying decimals. So when you're multiplying a decimal by a whole number, so we've got a whole number of 12, we've got a decimal of like 92 cents. So your product is going to be bigger than the decimal, so it's going to be bigger than 92, but it's going to be smaller than that whole number of 12. When you're multiplying a decimal and a decimal, so we're talking about a half, and we're multiplying it by 6/100ths, then your product is going to be smaller than both of these. So it's going to be smaller than 6/100ths, which is the smallest number we have right now. When you're multiplying a whole number and a mixed number, so we've got 145 is our whole number, by a mixed number of 5 and 8/10ths, then your product is going to be larger than both. So you're saying you're doing 145 5 times, and then you're doing 145 8/10ths times. So your product is definitely going to be larger than both of those numbers. All right, so let's get to our next slide here. All right, let me see if I can move this up so you guys can, or down so you guys can see it a little bit. Move this a little bit so you guys can see it. Okay, so you should be able to see all the steps now. So when we're multiplying decimals and we are using a standard method, our first step is to line up the numbers. So I'm going to take this first problem, which is 13 times 34/100ths. I'm going to write it and I'm going to line them up. Let me get my pen. So I've got 13. I'm going to multiply it by 0.34. Okay. So when I do that, I can multiply 13 times 34/100ths, and I've got my decimal. So I'm going to multiply my 3 times my 4, and that is 12. I'm going to multiply my 4 times my 1 and add my 1, and I've got 5. So I actually started multiplying before I needed to go to the next step. So we lined up the numbers. We multiply like there is no decimal there. So Ms. Behrens just started multiplying because she knows that step, but you guys do not. So we're going to pretend like that decimal's not there until the end of the problem, until we have our product, all right? So I did the first row. I'm going to drop my 0 to hold the place. I'm going to multiply 3 times 3, and I'm going to get 9. And then I'm going to multiply 3 times 1, and I'm going to get 3. And I'm going to add up these numbers. I've got 2, I've got 9 plus 5, which is 14. And then I've got 3 plus 1, which is 4. All right. So then my next step is to count the places behind the decimal in the problem. So there's no decimal in this whole number, so there's no places there. But there are 2 decimals in 2 places behind the decimal in this number. Here's the decimal, and I've got 1 place, 2 place. So I then move my decimal that many places in the product. So I start here, and I move my decimal 1, 2 places. And that's where I put my decimal. So the answer is 4 42/100ths. So the next problem, this one, 5 and 5/100ths and 6/100ths. So when I'm doing these, I can put my decimal, and I'm going to line up my numbers, put my decimal, my 6, okay. So I multiply my 5 and my 6. 5 times 6 is 30. All right? Now, then I don't need to multiply these zeros. They're placeholders. We need to move the decimal that many places. But when you multiply 6 times 0, it's 0. So it would just be another 0 in front of here. Okay, then when you go to your next row, it's just going to be all 0. 0 times 5, 0 times 0. You don't need to do that. But you do need to remember to move your decimal as many places as you can, or as you need to. So I'm going to count all my places behind the decimal in my problem. So I have 1 place, 2 place in this one. I should probably put my multiplication sign. So I have 2 places behind the decimal here. 1, 2, but I also have 2 places behind the decimal here, so I go 3, 4. So I need to move my decimal 4 places. So my decimal is right there right now, and I'm going to move him. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put my decimal here, and you guys know that we fill in all those places with zeros. So that is our answer. All right? Decimal 0, 0, 3, 0. All right? All right, I think we have a couple more to try just to show you all the different types that you might run into on our assessment. So this one is a mixed number multiplied by a decimal. And again, we're just going to line them up. All right, we're going to multiply like the decimals aren't there, so I'm just going to multiply 5 times 3, and I'm going to get 15. And multiply 5 times 6, and I'm going to get 30, plus 1 is 31. And multiply 5 times 5, I'm going to get 25. I'm going to add my 3, I've got 28. All right, I'm done with that, I'm done with that, I'm done with that. I'm going to drop my 0, and I'm ready to work with my number in the tens place, or in this case, it's actually the tenths place. But I'm going to multiply 4 times 3, and I get 12. I multiply 4 times 6, I get 24, plus 1 is 25. I'm going to multiply 4 times 5, I get 20, plus 2 is 22. So I've got 5, 3, 8 plus 5 is, sorry, Grant's trying to walk into the picture here. He's not allowed to. All right, we've got 8 plus 5, and that is 13. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and 2. All right, now I'm going to count how many, does that even look like a 2? Probably not. I'm going to count how many places we have behind the decimal, which here it's 1 place, 2 place, 3 place, 4 places behind the decimal. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is my answer. So I have 2 and 5,335 10,000s. That's a pretty big number. All right. One more little practice, just because I want you guys to see a word problem before you work on your quiz. So let's solve this word problem. Again, we're going to use the same thing that we've been doing. Susan earns $8.40 per hour at her part-time job. On Saturday, she worked 5 hours. What were her total earnings for the day? So we need to see how much money did Susan earn that day. She has $8.40 1 hour, $8.40 2 hours. So she's getting an extra $8.40 each hour. So that shows me that I need to multiply. So $8.40 times 5. All right, 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 8 is 40, plus 2 is 42. Now, then I have to ask myself how many places are behind the decimal. I've got 1 place, 2 places. The 5 has no decimal, so I only have 2 places behind my decimal. So I start here and I move my decimal 1, 2 places, and I get $42.00, and that is my product. So now I want you guys to take the 10-question quiz on the Google form. Get a scratch piece of paper, solve all the problems, and make sure that you move the decimal. I will be able to look at those results and pull some groups tomorrow. So I will see you guys then. Have fun.